इस वक्त लोकल गवर्नमेंट एंड रूरल डेवलपमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के कमेटी रूम में मौजूद हूँ। यहाँ पर अभी थोड़ी ही देर में खैबर पख्तूनख्वा वॉश अर्ली रिकवरी सेक्टोरल वर्किंग ग्रुप की मीटिंग मुनक़िद होने वाली है। आइए इस मीटिंग की चीदा कार्रवाई देखते हैं। आज की मीटिंग के एजेंडा पॉइंट्स में शामिल सिंगल रिपोर्टिंग फॉर्मेट की ब्रीफिंग, डिस्ट्रिक्ट को चेयर्स, डेंगू फीवर प्रिवेंशन एंड अवेयरनेस, प्रोजेक्ट शेयरिंग, एनओसी प्रोसेस एंड प्रोसीजर और एनी अदर बिजनेस शामिल हैं।
We welcome you to the 10th WASH early recovery working group meetings. Starting with brief introduction, me, Sayyid Rahman, coordinator WatSan ER SWG.
My name is Jamal Shah. I am the early working group co-chair.
I am Bob from ACS International.
Dr. Rahman, presenting the National Assistant. Promised.
Sayyid Zafar Bukhari from Kerala.
Farhan being from IMF.
Jamaluddin, early recovery working group coordination.
Abbas, I am WatSan.
Selva Smith, Kurumbi Home Program Assistant.
Okay, I think our first agenda item was SRF briefing, but we are still waiting for some colleague who will be joining us shortly. But before that, I thought that it would be important for us.
SRF I will
You will be someone? Hanif Bey?
Hanif friend,
Okay, so you will be the one who will be briefing. Okay, so just before you, I just wanted to highlight one thing. I mean, we should be clear why we are meeting. What is the purpose of this early recovery working group WASH meetings? I think instead, I would like to request Mr. Jamaluddin from the early recovery working group from UNDP, if he can just briefly describe what is the purpose of this early recovery working group and why we are required to have this early recovery working group, so that we are clear in our mind that when we are coming to the meeting, what is the purpose of us coming to the meeting. So if I can please request you, once I've also attended this meeting and he had briefed. Since the participants of this meeting changes quite often. Yes, so that's why I would again want to.
Yes. I'll give the shortest brief which I can. You've all been working before I've been into this early recovery working thing, and you've been working on relief and emergencies. After many disasters in Pakistan, that's like earthquake, like floods in 2010. So there are stages into early recovery, and the first stage, as the partners understand, is the relief and emergency, where people need saving of life. The early recovery in itself accounts the relief and emergency phase as well, and the early recovery for itself, for its own self as well, which rebuilds on the lives. Like the only difference is saving life in the relief stage and rebuilding lives in the early recovery stage. That's the basic difference which we can like quote wherever we want to differentiate between projects or anything else. So the emergencies don't go for longer time. Emergencies are for shorter time. The government, the NGOs and all the partners and humanitarian or philanthropists work on relief and emergency activities like in Sindh nowadays. Similarly, for early recovery, it's mandatory that all the partners, along with the sitting or the state or the government, work together and then plan for what is remaining or what has to be done. So in emergencies, it's mostly only the partners, no or very little coordination with the government agencies, with the line departments. They just go into the field, whatever the resources they have, they bring it and they deliver those resources to the people. save them from many other disasters. In early recovery mechanism, the only difference is that the government has to be on board for whatever planning or for whatever projects we want to carry out in the field. So this is a mechanism in which both the humanitarian as well as the government line department gives you a lead and plans and sees where the gaps are remaining before a reconstruction or such a phase that where the government shall take the tag from the humanitarian organizations and continue with the regular development works. So it's like emergency, having also the whole early recovery and then the development phase. So if that is understood by all the partners, then they can very well understand that why this forum is required. This forum is required so that the line departments can very shortly maneuver the activities, the resources which the humanitarian partners and the government line departments have for development or for reconstruction. So under this forum, what we do is we see the gaps, we plan accordingly along with the government planning. They have an yearly plan, development plan, other plans, 5-year plans. So they are in the best position to inform the humanitarian agencies where to go and where to work. So if there's a Union Council in Kohistan, Shatial, where no humanitarian agency has gone and addressed the problems, it's the government who can inform any humanitarian organization to come forward and work on that. So it's removal of gap, better planning towards the long-run development stage. So how are these projects being, the other purposes of this forum is to vet and verify that if there is any, provided there is any duplication, they stop it. They divert the resources or they inform the partners to plan it for some other reason. So it's the verification and vetting of documents, better planning from both the humanitarian and government agencies. And this is what the purpose is. The mechanism, the structure is at 3 levels. It's at central level, that is the federal, where the ministries and the secretaries co-chair it with the humanitarian agency leads. Like UNICEF is the main lead for, there are 8 sectors and 4 thematic groups, you must say that. And the only sectoral word is changed because just to make it a bit of different from the cluster. Yeah, although it's a cluster involved all the humanitarian partners and in very few clusters there was any representation from the government. But the sectoral approach ensures that the government is giving you the lead or the supervisory role which many needs. So at the provincial level, this is that structure which is being held by the local government for water and sanitation as well as for community infrastructure. Similarly, at district level, I was just discussing this with Senator also. At district level, though we are late by 2 months, but in certain districts we have formalized, established the district level WatSan, the district level CI, the district level agriculture, the district level health and nutrition. So what happens is the things from that very district comes through that district sectoral group into the provincial group where it is verified and vetted, and then the NOC and all those processes, so that there is no duplication at the DCO or the district level, and then there is a better planning or recording of at the provincial level, at the secretary, at the department. I hope I can share that structure and that guidelines with you through you. I guess I'll transfer.
Thank you very much. I think it's quite useful. I mean, as I explained already, there is a difference between the cluster and the working, the way they work, the cluster and the early recovery working group, and that's what I wanted to emphasize. Whatever we do here, should translate into later on into something which goes into development. Our intervention should not be something which are of 2 months duration or 3 months. I mean, when we are putting a toilet in emergency phase, that toilet, we know that it will not last more than 3 months or 2 months or even 1 month. We are tankering water, we are installing hand pumps without consideration that whether this is, I mean, we are just firefighting, we are emergency, we are relief. here now the paradigm shift is that we actually have to focus on things which are longer lasting, which are seeds towards development. So that's what I wanted to clarify. And that's the purpose. We are meeting here because there are a lot of plans from the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, government of Pakistan, which they have there in their annual work plans, in their annual development plan, I would say. So we should be in coherence with those plans, and if they have those plans and we also have our own plans, we should not be cutting each other. So that was important. I want to clarify this thing. Okay, I think we can move on to our first agenda item, which is the SRF meeting, the single reporting format. We will request our colleague to again introduce himself and then.
I'm Farhan Naeem, representing IMF PDM, and I work mainly on the SRF training all the stakeholders. So about the SRF, we have done many trainings with the stakeholders, different stakeholders, and we have gathered a lot of their queries and a lot of their points which were not met by SRF. So currently they are working on the second version on SRF, and hopefully it will be launched on 29th of this month. And there are some minor changes that were previously the shortcomings of the SRF version 1, mostly catering with the project owner module, IP module. There were some changes in the emergency level, in the appeal module, the multi-sector emergency projects. So there are different changes that we will see when the project is launched. And there was one thing more, that the NOCs should be linked with the SRF. But it is currently only done for the SRF for the FATA, and it is not being done for the SRF for the PDMA. So it is still in the ongoing development phase that NOCs should be linked, because the PDMA hasn't got any database of the NOCs. They simply have the Excel sheets that they enter the data from the proposal or the proforma which they get from the NGOs. So hopefully we will see.
Okay, so what you are saying is that SRF still there are things to be done within SRF. So now, what should be the organization reporting on?
Currently the SRF is not working, but we can still see the reports, that the report section on the SRF website, we can still extract the data and use for our reporting, but we cannot enter the data, new data, fresh data into the SRF system. That will be after the 29th of launching.
Okay, I understood that, but what does that mean for us, for our organization? I mean, how do we report now?
Currently we cannot report.
We are
cannot
still
report on
reporting on
SRF.
4 Ws and 3 Ws because in community infrastructure there were some queries to be resolved regarding SRF. And the thing was the question that if we are launching the second phase or second form of SRF on 29th of September, what would be the scenario?
Currently the SRF caters for the 3W, 4W, 5W, the second version. We will extract the data in 3W format as are required by all the NGOs. So you can extract that data, but currently you cannot enter data into the database because it is still in the
Still working on
the development phase, and they are shifting the data to second version. So it is currently disabled. You can still see the report.
Currently.
No,
That's not
continue.
Because they have come up with a suggestion as well to just remove SRF.
There was a suggestion that there should be a software or Excel sheet that is readable by the machine.
Yeah.
One simply enters the data wherever he is, and when he logs onto the internet, simply upload the data. That will be uploaded to data into the database.
Okay, but the important thing, I mean, we are in various phases of our early recovery. I think it is important that we still continue to share our data with each other. So I would say that until and unless SRF is up and running, we should be sharing data. But we can still go for the 3W or 4W.
No other choice.
But in last meeting we diverted instructed all the colleagues to please divert to the SRF because all the stakeholders were in the process that SRF is this time active and it is functional and full functional.
He mentioned that it is not active at the moment.
But at the moment it is not functional, but after 30th, it will be again in good.
So at the moment we don't.
So we have only 1 week.
So 1 week we don't report, and after that we.
And what will be the period of reporting? I mean, fortnightly or monthly?
That will be set by the project owner. A new feature has been introduced that project owner is allowed to set the reporting frequency. That was previously set by the cluster lead.
Look, I understand. I mean, this is a very, very useful tool. Once it's up and running, it would be something which would be very, very extremely useful.
Yeah.
But at the meantime, I mean, we don't know whether this 29th is really 29th or it will
Yeah, it is
forward.
It's
or-
already